This is The Drive with Dale Lolley and Matt Williamson on your 24/7 home of the black and gold. SNR, Steelers Nation Radio.
And welcome to The Drive. I am Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson. And, it's a Tuesday that's a Wednesday here in Pittsburgh because the Steelers play on Saturday.
Yep.
Just another one of these. Like,
every week,
this
not
entire
normal.
month has been like that.
It's been at
us.
least that. I mean, going back to Thanksgiving,
Yeah.
I think it's just there's never been like a normal week, normal. And I've come to notice. I mean, like when I got hired by Pitt and was a full-time employee, I was shocked how much creature habit players are and coaches, and everything is so exact.
Everything's regimented.
Yep, and frankly, I've become the same way. I mean, like I'm such a dork. I build a spreadsheet before the season.
Stop right there.
And like every week at Tuesday at 3:00, I know where I'm going to be, or Thursday at 4:30. Like you always know where you're going to be. And these last couple of weeks have messed with my brain.
It
Because
really
every night
has.
there's football
Like,
on, too, right?
I was at the Steelers facility today. I'm like, what day is today?
Yeah. It
like,
feels
today-
like a normal week.
Today's New Year's Eve. I didn't even know. Like,
Yeah.
Happy New Year's Eve, everybody. I hope
Happy New Year's
everybody
Eve.
stays safe and
The game
enjoys.
day's right around the corner again.
Yeah, it's like every week thus far has been a challenge in this in this fashion, just from the fact that your schedule's all.
Yeah. Christmas was the
Cattywampus.
craziest, but I mean, 3 and 11 days, plus that, plus all the games every night too. I don't know which one's Monday football, which one's Thursday night football,
Right,
which one's
yeah.
Wednesday night football. Right.
I was actually looking forward to having a Sunday game. I'm thinking when before
The chances are.
before the Colts lost, I'm like, okay, they're going to be 4 teams playing for one playoff spot in the AFC. Maybe they'll
On Saturday.
Maybe
Probably.
they'll put all those games at. Well, they'll put them all at 4:00 because you get some West Coast teams in there mixed in. I'm like, that'll be perfect. 4:00.
Right. Pay a lot of attention to them.
Then the Colts lose. Yeah. Thanks.
Which means you're doing pregame during the Ravens game, and then you're up late, and then Sunday's nice, but you're going to get up late because you're up till 4 in the morning.
And you know what's going to happen. Okay, one way or the other, whether the Steelers play Houston or whether the Steelers play Baltimore, if it's Baltimore, I guarantee you right now that game will be Saturday night.
Yeah, well, I would think, because they're both Saturday games.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would think
If it's Houston, it will be Saturday afternoon. It'll be the 4:30 game or 4:00 game, whatever that is.
which is fine by me, because that gives the Steelers 7 days. It'd be nice to pick up 8 for the playoff
It's
game.
just another condensed week of practice.
But it's still a weird way of practice.
Yeah.
Wednesdays or Thursdays.
Because they won't
Tuesdays or
do
Wednesdays
anything
and blah, blah,
Sunday.
blah, blah. Of course. Right. Is it safe to say, I mean, playing on Sunday night, the last game of the regular season, isn't great. But
Right.
I understand what the NFL
especially
is
for
doing.
the road team.
Especially for the road team.
Yeah.
So
So
do
that
you-
team is going to then they'll end up playing the late.
That's what I was going to ask you. I mean, because both those teams are going to the playoffs. It's just a matter of who's the number 1 seed.
But they're not going to make either
over
one. They're not going to make that team that travels play on Saturday.
That's what I was going to ask.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Because I forgot that one of them gets a bye. So the loser will play on Sunday.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I would
Which
think.
is better. I mean,
would
if
think.
you make them play on Saturday, that's not
Completely unfair.
Right.
Yeah.
And I would think Ravens and Steelers, no matter who they play, are likely to be on Saturdays
Probably.
since they're both playoff teams.
Yeah.
And
Houston always gets the early slot on Saturday. If you look back through
really?
You look back through their playoff history because it's Houston and nobody.
Just because they're not a big draw?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, that's
The Steelers would be in that situation.
Right. But that's usually where Houston lands.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Plus, they're a West Coast, or Western part, west of the Mississippi, anyways. We have a Steelers injury report.
Oh, okay.
It looks pretty good, actually. Justin Fields, a full participant today with that abdominal injury issue. Russell Wilson got the day off to rest. He was limited. The Steelers made 3 roster moves today.
No, really. I'm on top of any of this stuff.
Roman Wilson, Cole Holcomb, Logan Lee all had their practice windows opened today.
Oh, wow. Okay. Guys we haven't heard from for a while.
Yeah. So Roman Wilson was a full participant in practice today. Cole Holcomb and Logan Lee were both limited. And you do that now because you get to start that window or open that window before the playoffs start. And therefore, if something happens, let's say you lose somebody this weekend. Well, okay, Let's say you lose an inside linebacker, for example.
Right.
All right, we're just going to activate Cole Holcomb.
Yeah. So a couple questions on that. Well, first off, I feel like I've disrespected Logan Lee because we've talked about this draft class. I'm like, well, you don't have a third-round pick or first-round pick.
I've gotten 45 questions about when's Roman Wilson coming back.
Yeah,
I've gotten no questions about when Logan Lee's coming back.
Right. I kind of even I'm sorry, I forgot you were there. But great. I mean, he's added to the group as well. So is every team going to do this with their guys that are playoff teams?
I think if they're smart. I mean, if you got guys,
you have nothing to lose.
Yeah, because
if the window opens for 21 days and shuts, what'd you lose?
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, you get the opportunity to at least see these guys practice in case you might need them.
And many of the teams will get eliminated in the next 21 days.
Yeah,
if you open the window.
Right.
So why not? Even if they, unless there's like no physical chance that they can do it, like Aiden Hutchinson's window will open. Guys like that.
Because the other thing that then happens, is once these other teams are done playing, the teams that don't make the playoffs, they start signing guys to futures contracts.
Yeah.
And they can sign guys off of anybody's roster, practice squad or anything like that. So you've got basically three extra practice squad spots here that you just created by activating those three guys.
Yeah, that makes sense. And, hey, you kind of like we were talking before we hit record here, that the bowl games are in full swing. There's one going on as we speak, I think. And, like back in my Pitt days, that was valuable extra practice time. Maybe nobody cared about the Blue Bonnet Bowl or the Weed Eater Bowl, but we're like, we got an extra whole month of practice. All our young guys are going to play like crazy. We didn't play Larry's last year like crazy in that month, but we played all the new guys that were incoming, that were sitting on the bench all year.
And I had somebody ask on the message board as well today, well, why is it that Ricky Pearsall can go out there and have a big game on Monday night and the Steelers can't seem to get Roman Wilson activated at all? I'm like, well, first, and Ricky Pearsall went through way worse than Roman Wilson did. So, Pearsall was activated earlier in the season.
Oh, he's been practicing with
He's been practicing all season long.
And before last night, everyone's like, why aren't they getting more of the first-round pick? He looks like a bust.
Yeah.
That's all that was the Pearsall narrative until 24 hours ago.
Yeah, he had one other game this season where he flashed. I think he had like 4 catches for like 56 yards.
Yeah, he struggled to make an impact so far.
And he was a first-round pick.
Yeah, he's also drafted well ahead of Wilson, right.
Whereas Roman Wilson missed all of training camp, came back for like 3 weeks, finally got his first playing time, was active for a game for the first time, and then got hurt again.
Yeah. And the Niners also didn't trade for a wide receiver at the trade deadline. There's only so many spots.
Right. That's the other thing. Yeah.
Right. And none of them play special teams.
Right.
Like Skournick is going to run down on punts.
Yeah.
You need those guys.
Or Skournick.
I call it. I call them everything under the book. I do both.
Yeah, I get that. I have some names. That's like a Bill Cowerism thing. It was, Mike Tomaszak was always Jerry Olslavsky. He always butchered a lot of names. Close but no cigar. Anyways, getting back to the injury report, you mentioned Ben Skournick. He was limited today with that hip issue, but limited is a step in the right direction. Joey Porter Jr., a full participant today.
Great.
That is a step in the right direction. Jalen Warren was limited with his rib issue. Shouldn't hold him back. And then Isaac Sayamalu was given the day off to rest.
Okay. So I assume they won't treat this like a playoff game, but it's all hands on deck.
They're playing their guys. Yeah,
they're playing their dudes.
Talked to Cam Hayward earlier today, and he was asked about that. He said, "How do you feel about it? What if Baltimore wins earlier in the day and they clinch the division?" He's like,
"I don't think that matters at all.
We want to go out and win. We don't want to go into the playoffs on a 4-game losing streak. We're going to try to win this game."
And there's a chance you could fall the 6th seed.
Right.
I think seeding matters.
I don't know that they're necessarily thinking about it that way, but they do want to win the football game.
Yeah.
Kind of, as Mike Tomlin said, wash the stink away from the last 3 games.
No, I think there's value in that as well. What I meant by a playoff game is questionable dudes would play. I don't think there's any of those on this list.
They don't really have anybody that's going to be questionable.
Qualifies. Yeah.
On the Cincinnati side of things, though.
Okay.
Chase Brown did not practice today.
I think his season's over.
I just
haven't said it yet.
Here's the thing, and I could see him wanting to play. He's 10 yards short of 1,000 for the season.
Is he really?
10 yards.
That's a bummer.
Yeah. But it's a high ankle sprain. You're a running back with a high ankle sprain. I just don't know that even if he would happen to play, he would be real.
And it looked pretty brutal.
Yeah. Orlando Brown Jr. with a fibula injury, limited.
Okay.
Joe Burrow with right wrist and knee issues.
I bet he has 6 things.
Yeah, well, without a doubt. The right wrist has been the issue all season long, or not. Offensive tackle Devin Cochran did not practice because of personal issues.
Well, he filled in for Mims. Mims only played 20 snaps.
Yeah,
and then
that's true.
So he was the starting right tackle, and I'm like, who's Devin Cochran? I'd never heard of the dude, and I still don't know anything more than that, except for he might be their starting right tackle on Saturday.
He very well could be. We'll get to that here in a minute. T. Higgins, ankle and knee issues, was limited. That's kind of been his situation the last couple of weeks. Sam Hubbard did not practice. He's out.
I think he's done.
Tanner Hudson, another one of their tight ends, has a knee issue. He was limited. McKinley Jackson, one of their defensive tackles, was a full participant with a wrist. Chris Jenkins, one of their other defensive tackles. They
drafted both those guys.
Limited with a knee issue. Charlie Jones, who's our wide receiver / kick returner, he has a groin. He was limited. Amarius Mims with the ankle and hand. Those are not connected. Was limited. And then tight end Drew Sample with a groin issue did not practice.
Okay. So the announcers didn't do a great job on the Mims injury, but he was ruled out pretty quickly after getting hurt. I think it was like 20 snaps into the game. So I thought he'd be done, like it was serious, not limited. So maybe he still got a chance.
It was the ankle during the game.
I think so, yeah.
Because big man fall down like tree.
Yeah.
I think he got some friendly fire there, wasn't it?
I don't remember the injury.
I think Burrow fell into the back of his ankle or something like that, if I remember correctly. But we'll see. I mean, again, with the Bengals, they need to win this game, but they've got a 6% chance.
They need 6%. So many things to go their way.
It's not so many things. It's 2 things. They need to win, and then they need Miami and Denver to lose.
Yeah,
so it's not a lot.
Things. Right.
But both of those teams are favored.
I say both are unlikely.
Yeah.
I mean, if you just go by Vegas, well, they get a good shot in Pittsburgh. Man, I don't think Kansas City has a good shot beating Denver. However, I was talking about this on my podcast today.
Talking about it on this podcast as well.
Here we go. They're not going to play anybody. Well, you still got to put 5 offensive linemen on the field. The Chiefs will probably play Humphrey or one of the guards.
I'll bet they don't play Humphrey.
It's hard to field an offensive line.
I understand
You know what
that.
I mean? You're going to have 8 of them active on game day.
But it's probably Smith, the right guard, is the one. He's not signed for next year.
I was going to say him too. Tooney's the one I think you definitely shut down.
Tooney's been playing left tackle for you.
Right. Obviously, Kelsey's not playing. Chris Jones isn't playing. Mahomes isn't going to be active. But it's not easy to field 22 starters plus all the other guys are going to play. This isn't college with 100 guys available.
That's the problem, and that's why
no lines where it gets sticky.
You start sitting guys, especially these teams that make these decisions. We're going to sit our key guys, and then you don't sit somebody, and he's going. Wait a second.
I thought I was key.
I'm not a key guy. I got to play this 17th game, and the guy next to me doesn't.
Yeah.
What's that? What's that about?
If the Steelers were to do it, it's not a guarantee Queen and Highsmith would get that call. Right. They probably would, but you got to put people on the field.
Yeah.
It's not as easy as you think.
Or, Landon Roberts has to play the whole game. He's like, I'm a 10-year vet, man.
I'm pretty banged up too. Yeah. You need me for the wild card round as much as anybody, right? It's a stress on somebody else.
Yeah. So that's where the Bengals are at in terms of their injury stuff.
But they are a long shot. They're asking a lot.
Yeah, I just don't expect all the stuff to happen for them, even if they would happen to beat the Steelers. And, by the way, that line has now moved a full point towards the Steelers.
The other thing is the Jets are an utter embarrassment, too.
Yeah.
There's that.
Yeah.
As if Kansas City could pull a rabbit out of their hat. I don't know if the Jets could do that.
Does Aaron Rodgers start this week?
I think he came out and said something, but I don't know what.
Well, he may have said it. That doesn't mean it's going to happen.
I don't know what to think of that organization. Do they have any intentions of bringing him back?
I don't believe so, but
they don't have a GM or coach, so who's making the decision?
Well, it'd be Woody Johnson's grandson.
Exactly. That's what makes me think maybe
who replaced him on? I can't even remember who their backup was. Tyrod Taylor.
Which is fine. Right.
Why wouldn't you just play Tyrod Taylor and say, hey, we're not real interested in winning it. We got a top 10 draft pick right now.
Then he's shutting down Adams and Breece Hall, and I don't know. Slippery slope, but not that it's bad. This administration is not going to be there, so what's the difference?
There's going to be a lot of that.
A lot of that.
Yeah, questions across the league. And people wonder sometimes, why would you shut this guy down? You're contracted to play 17 games.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the thing. If a guy goes out there and plays, and let's say he's a big part of your team, he's a big part of your plans moving forward.
Yeah.
But he goes out there in this Week 17 game that is meaningless for you, for your team, and tears an ACL.
Yeah, he's not ready for camp.
Or tears an Achilles.
Right.
You just lost him for the start of next year.
Yeah, it really affects the upcoming season. And then all of a sudden you better go find somebody else. You just created another need, too. You know, as if you don't have enough when your team's garbage like the Jets or whatever.
Yeah.
No, it's
different when you're a playoff team or you're fighting for a playoff spot than
100%.
These teams that aren't in it, and you're like, or as we saw last year with Russell Wilson. Hey, we don't want to. There's an injury.
Also injury stuff. Too.
There's an injury guarantee in there that if he gets hurt, we got to pay him, and we don't want to pay him anymore.
We're not planning on bringing him back.
Yeah,
right. Oh,
that's,
absolutely.
That's why Jameis Winston's not playing right now.
Or Daniel Jones isn't a Giant.
Yeah.
Or Carr did the same thing with the Raiders. I mean, it's usually a quarterback thing, but yeah, it definitely matters.
Cleveland's going to play Dorian Thompson-Robinson and Bailey Zappi this week.
Is that their plan?
That's their plan.
Yeah, no wonder they're 18.5-point dogs.
Yeah,
that game's not.
They have no interest in playing Jameis Winston again. He's the only way that they would even have a shot.
Yeah,
and they probably still lose in Baltimore, but they would have a shot.
He's beating the Ravens. He's beating the Steelers. I mean, he's a volatile
enough
on
guy.
Heater.
Yeah.
He might throw 4 touchdowns and not a throw pick that day.
He might throw 6 interceptions.
Yeah, right.
That's the roller coaster
but
that you live with.
That's what I didn't know that Zappy DTR thing until just now. I was thinking DTR's so bad, maybe they'll play Winston, which gives them at least a puncher's chance.
Right.
They
have no chance
anymore now. Right.
They're throwing butterfly kisses at them.
I'm not sure Lamar even has to play for them to win.
No.
He'll probably play some.
Oh, they're trying to win him an MVP award. They'll let him go out there and throw the ball 25 times in the first half and so they can sit him down.
So along those lines, I heard on the way here, Schefter said something like he doesn't think Barkley's going to play.
Yeah.
Like, will Josh Allen play in quest of an MVP?
They've said he's going to play briefly.
Okay. I guess that's. I mean, I get that.
This week, these last couple of weeks should not have affected who you think the MVP is.
This week shouldn't. What the Ravens do against that Browns team shouldn't matter one bit.
I don't care one iota what's happened the last couple. What's your season been to this point? Where have you gotten your team to?
Yeah, I don't. I mean, for those teams, no, I don't care one bit. I mean, if Goff and Darnold were in the race, they still have a case to be made because they have a big game.
Right.
You know what I mean? But Jackson or especially Allen is going to be the number 2 seed no matter what.
Right.
His case should be written.
I think it is, and these last couple of weeks haven't affected that for me. The
last couple of weeks have. I mean, games matter for the Bills.
Well, they've won. My point is they've won the games the last couple of weeks. His numbers haven't exactly been stellar, but then you look at the game against the Jets and it's played in a downpour.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, but he still found a way to win the game.
Right.
And
this year's crazy because you're splitting hairs. I mean, the MVP race is harsher than usually.
I think it's pretty cut and dried, but that's just me.
Allen?
Yeah.
I would think that should be a co-MVP, to be honest with you. That's happened before. But I would vote for Allen if I got one, but I think it's really close.
I mean, if the people out there arguing for Lamar, like, well, he's the best player in the league. Okay, I hear that. He's the most dynamic player in the league. Should we just hand him the MVP award for the next 10 seasons then?
I think the best 4 players in the league are Mahomes, Lamar, Allen, and Burrow, including Watt and Garrett and Jefferson and Chase and every offensive lineman. I think that we happen to have the best 4 people on the planet are all playing quarterback right now.
But it also certainly helps in the case of Lamar Jackson that he has Derrick Henry. I'm going to go back to the argument I had at midseason. As Derrick Henry goes, so go the Ravens. And that has been been the case all season long. He opens everything up for Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, but Jackson's been noticeably better this year than last year.
Well, because he's had Derrick Henry.
That's what I mean. And he was an MVP last year. I mean, his case is really strong.
Last year, I thought his case was stronger, in fact, because
I thought the competition stunk.
The competition wasn't good, and he had a lot less around him. They're running the ghost of J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards out there running back. This year, he's got a dynamic running back.
Yeah. But he's capitalized on it. I mean,
sure.
Yeah.
But if I look at what Josh Allen has, it's not nearly as good.
It's not as good. No, it's not.
And yet the team has been better. I understand that they beat Buffalo head-to-head, but I don't care about that.
Wouldn't influence my MVP choice.
No.
I mean, we're talking about bodies of work.
I think he has done more with less. I actually think
close.
I think Mahomes has done.
It's funny to me that he doesn't even get brought up.
Yeah.
I mean, because
if you're going to talk about Joe Burrow, bring up Joe Burrow in this argument. And Burrow's having a great year.
Oh, yeah.
How can you not bring up Mahomes for a team that's 15-1?
Because the stats aren't as good, which shouldn't matter.
It didn't matter for Lamar last year.
Yeah, they weren't bad. I mean, Mahomes is like middle of the road, though, in a lot of categories.
But they don't
statistically.
They're nowhere near 15-1 with anybody else at quarterback.
No, I mean, if Goff's their quarterback, they might not be 500, and I think Goff's really good.
Yeah,
I mean, they probably are like 500. They're fighting for a spot with the Chargers or Denver right now.
Right. Anyways, let's get to a break. He is the Matt Williamson. I am Dale Lolley. You're listening to The Drive here on the Steelers Audio Network. Matt and I will be back with more right after this. Welcome back. I am Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson. And Matt, I'm looking here at a piece on ESPN by Ben Solik, who does good work on there for them. And he says the dangerous wild card teams. He's picking out the dangerous wild card teams and why those teams will be dangerous. And these are the most dangerous wild card teams. And his first team on there is Green Bay.
Let's talk about Green Bay for a second.
Yeah.
So I really like their roster construction. I'm a Love fan. But I think what's shown up is their 5 losses, as we all know, are against basically elite teams.
Detroit twice, Minnesota twice, and Philadelphia.
Right. And I think it's safe to say on New Year's Eve, they're a step below those teams. Maybe not 3 steps, but they're a step below those teams.
They could have beaten Minnesota.
Oh, and they're
on Sunday.
Good. Yeah. I think what they're missing, though, is one more star. Like, take Love out of the equation. Jacobs is a really good back. But who's the guy that you change your game plan for?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
the receivers are all good, but they don't have a true number 1.
That's what I mean.
They don't have a George Pickens,
Jefferson, or like they like Rashawn Gary, but he's not Micah Parsons,
right?
You know what I mean? Like if one of their guys, they have a lot of good players. McKinney's a good safety, but he's a
safety.
I'm not going to change my life. Like who are they game planning around when you play the Packers? Man, I can't let that dude beat me. They don't have that guy.
They don't have anybody. Like even Love's, again, a good player.
Right. I was excluding quarterbacks.
He's not a great player.
Right. I mean, it's not like Mahomes elevating everybody. Right.
Jacobs is a good player.
Yeah. He's the closest thing.
He's not Saquon Barkley or Derrick Henry or one of those guys.
He might not be a top 5 back, and he's having a great career or a great season. He's close. He's the closest thing, but still, it's not like what he brings is so special that we can't deal with it,
Yeah.
Especially when you come to playoff times and big dog games.
Yeah, when it's 3rd and 8, who's the ball going to?
Right, and more so to me even. I mean, yes, certainly that matters.
Or when it's 3rd and 8 and you're on defense, who's making the big play for you?
That's where I was going with it. Like they want that to be Gary, but that's asking a lot. Gary's a Highsmith level player, really good player, but he's not. I have to roll my protections that way all the time. And it's not how they're built. I mean, because they don't have ownership and they're a different organization. But, like, if Myles Garrett became available, I'll give you anything you want. Like, just give me a stud to change the game. They don't have it.
Yeah. Well, and that's really what they, when they made the trade for Reggie White.
Oh, yeah.
Way back when.
Right.
He was that guy.
He was that guy.
The second team on here for him is the Steelers.
Okay.
And here's what he has to say about them. I promised myself around week 11.
Oh, I thought that's what I apologize for interrupting, but I thought I would say Barnwell did something similar. I thought this write-up about the Steelers was really good by Ben.
Yes.
Ben's really good.
I thought Barnwell always misses the mark on the Steelers.
He does. Because he knows he does, but he still does it.
But because he's completely tied into the analytics part of it.
Right.
And they a lot of times defy the analytics.
Yep. No, this is a really good write-up. I thought this write-up was Barnwell's. I got my authors crossed, but this is good.
He said, I promised myself around week 11. Okay, you're not going to interrupt now. After their wins over the Commanders and Ravens, that I would not rule out a heroic Steelers postseason run, no matter what. Mm-hmm. Here they are, having lost 3 games in a row, and I'm still here to tell you that it's in the cards. I'll acknowledge that Pittsburgh might still win the division and might not be a wild card team, but we're still including it here. The past 3 games against the Steelers have been perhaps the most brutal stretch of any team this regular season. At Philadelphia, short week. At Baltimore, short week. Kansas City.
I don't know if you could create one harder.
No.
I mean, it has to be the hardest 3 games.
It might be the hardest 3 games that I've ever seen a team play.
Yeah, right.
In that span, they saw absences from star wide receiver George Pickens, defensive tackle Larry Ogunjobi, cornerback Joey Porter Jr., cornerback Dante Jackson, and safety Deshaun Elliott. Oh, and T.J. Watt is clearly hurt, even if he isn't missing time. Now, there isn't a fairy godmother to wave a magic wand and make everybody healthy in the postseason. The Steelers are going to have to carry some of these nagging injuries with them, but I'm confident that Pittsburgh is a better team than recent memory is telling us.
Yep, I agree with that.
Yeah.
Although I'm not sure I agree with the nagging injury thing.
Yeah, I don't know that those are...
I don't know. We'll never know what Watt's status is, and everyone this time of year across the league has something, but they're reasonably healthy, you know?
Yeah.
Right.
The hamstring injury for Pickens was particularly glaring. Here's what quarterback Russell Wilson has looked like this season, throwing to Pickens relative to any non-Pickens receiver, regardless of position.
Cut and paste this right into Matt's stats. Boom.
There you go.
Yep.
So EPA per drop back, and you can explain this better than me.
I ignored that on the stat packet because people don't explain it. It's hard to explain, but I think it's the best indicator. But, okay, good. What are the numbers?
It's 0.34 when he throws to Pickens. When it's not Pickens, it's 0.2.
Which doesn't sound like much. But the way EPA is structured is every time I throw him the ball translates to points on the scoreboard.
Right.
So over the course of the year, if it's 0.1 difference between him and everybody else, that's gigundous. I mean, it really is. Now, one thing about Ben's article that I have a slight little issue with, these numbers are going to be lower when you throw to Warren and Najee in the flat. You know what I mean? Right. So they're
or
great
Michael
numbers.
Pruitt or
of course.
Yeah.
You know, but the discrepancy between him and everybody else is still massive, which you're about to show us.
The success rate on the throws to Pickens, it's 46.2%. To the others, at 51.1%. So it leans the other way because Pickens gets so much attention and he's a deeper target.
And also, success rate is a little more. Again,
did you get a first down?
Yeah. First and 10, did you get 4 yards?
Right.
So that swing to Najee is going to get that a heck of a lot more than the 18-yard bomb.
Think
down
about
the
the first meeting with Cincinnati when they completed 13 of 13 passes to the backs. They were all a success.
Right. I mean,
that's 100% success rate.
Whoever the best deep threat is in the NFL isn't going to have as good a success rate catching the ball as Christian McCaffrey.
Right.
Not even close, you know.
First down plus touchdown rate. Pickens is at 42.3%. The rest of the roster, 36.4%.
Yeah, think about that. Every time you throw his way, not every completion, almost
42% of the time, almost half the time, you either get a first down or a touchdown.
Yeah, pretty good.
Pretty good. Explosive play rate. This is where it really, shows up.
Yeah.
Pickens is 25%. So 1 out of every 4 of his catches is an explosive play.
Yeah.
20 or more yards down the field.
Crazy, right.
For the rest of the roster, it's 16.4%.
Yeah. That's massive. I mean, especially because the structure of this offense.
Yeah.
You know, it's a lot of shorter stuff. I mean, and Russ has been like this for a long time. He's got a chipper and a putter, and he's got a driver. You know what I mean? But you know what I mean? I mean, like, the explosive stuff has to be part of this offense, and he's where it comes from most of the time.
Yards per attempt.
It's a big one, too.
10.3 yards per attempt when targeting George Pickens. That's just targeting George Pickens.
Yeah, attempt.
8 yards per attempt when targeting anybody else.
And, of course, those are going to be shorter when you dump it to Warren or Najee, but still, it's a big discrepancy.
And those are just Russell Wilson's numbers.
Yes.
That's the thing that you have to kind of weigh in there with the Steelers team, because you have to remember that the first 6 games of the season were Justin Fields games.
Yeah.
And Pickens hadn't blown up at that point.
Yep, because if you keep I want to continue this, obviously, but like Ben also talks about the Bengals in this category, and when he does T. Higgins, he does T. Higgins when he's active versus inactive, not when the ball goes to him versus everybody else.
Yeah.
And there's a big discrepancy, but that's a little different.
The disparity becomes increasingly worrisome, going back to Ben's piece here, on deep passes, which are not just integral to Wilson's game, but also an integral part of any playoff push for the Steelers.
Yeah.
Pickens has caught 9 of 17 downfield targets. That's 20 or more air yards from Wilson since he became the starter, which is a catch rate over expectation of plus 24.3%.
Which is huge.
Huge.
I mean,
massive.
Folks, let me just take our word. That's a huge discrepancy versus Joe average receiver, starting receiver.
Anyone with eyes can tell you this, but Pickens catches downfield passes at a preposterous rate. For the season on downfield targets, Pickens has 5.8 receptions over expectation, which leads the league per Next Gen Stats, 199 receiving yards over expectation, which again leads the league, and 27 expected points added, which is fourth in the league overall.
Yeah, those are
huge.
Not as easy to go into detail exactly what they mean, folks, but they're really, really indicative of how good a football player you are. And basically, he's one of the best receivers in the league.
Wilson has been better in all facets of quarterbacking, including throwing underneath, the quick game, moving in the pocket, and scrambling than I expected given his performances in Denver. But the reality is Wilson remains the same. He has to connect on the moon balls. Without Pickens from week 14 to 16, the offense was clearly missing the explosive element necessary to keep pace with top-scoring teams.
Yeah. And again, anyone with eyeballs could have seen that.
Yeah. With Pickens back on the field, that possibility returns to the table. He talked in the next paragraph here is talking about, Mike Tomlin's and the 4 losses since their last playoff win.
Yeah.
He says, basically, they lost 45-42 to Blake Bortles Jaguars. Everybody will tell you that was a bad loss. But it was also a bad matchup for them. Since then, Tomlin hasn't had as much lost postseason games as somehow dragged his teams into the postseason. In 20 and 21 and 23, the Steelers were quarterbacked by 38-year-old Ben Roethlisberger, 39-year-old Ben Roethlisberger, and Kenny Pickett / Mason Rudolph. 2 of those 3 offenses were coordinated by Matt Canada. Now, Tomlin did make that decision.
Sure.
But he also got out of that decision last year.
And we all know they weren't good offenses, and he got them to the playoffs.
Yeah. He said it's a miracle those teams even made the playoffs in the first place. According to the numbers, the Pittsburgh offense doesn't look all that much different since Wilson took over. Pittsburgh is averaging minus 0.03 EPA per play on offense with a success rate of 40.7%, both of which are below league average. But the explosive pass rate is 13.6% higher than anything we've seen in recent seasons, and that's with the midseason quarterback change and a stretch of Pickens' absences. So, that's factoring in those 3 games that you didn't have George Pickens out there.
He keeps stressing, like we mentioned, how important the explosive deep stuff is.
Yeah.
That's the foundation of this offense.
And
it has to be there.
The ideal run out for the according to Ben Solak.
Yeah.
If the 18-point underdog Browns can somehow upset the Ravens in Week 18 and gift the Steelers AFC North title, that would be ideal. So long as the Steelers beat the Bengals, that would be swell. Short of that, Pittsburgh might draw the 5th seed or the 5 seed or the 6th seed, depending on the result of this game against the Bengals. In the Chargers matchup against the Raiders, the 5 seed is optimal, as the 4 seed Texans are as weak of a division winner as there is in the field this season.
Yeah, I 100% agree.
They might end up being, I don't know if you want to say the worst team in the playoffs in the AFC or NFC.
It's possible.
They might be in that conversation.
Things have gone really, really wrong. And
After
they have
that,
not got fixed.
The Steelers would love a third crack at the Ravens, who they already beat once and hung with much closer than the 34-17 score would indicate in the rematch when you didn't have Pickens. Buffalo is the most important team for the Steelers to avoid. I don't think they have a shot of outscoring the Bills.
And that's what he does with every team.
Okay,
Who do you want to avoid most? What's your best path? All those good things.
Not surprisingly, his key player for the Steelers as they head into the postseason is George Pickens.
Yeah.
The outside cornerbacks of the AFC playoff picture are eminently gettable. Chiefs cornerbacks beside Trent McDuffie had struggled all season.
I thought that was a really good point. There's not many good corners in the postseason in the AFC.
Really aren't.
There really aren't.
And Pickens already put McDuffie on a poster last week. Buffalo's Rasul Douglas and Christian Benford are good players, but neither one is great locking down a man for 4 quarters. Nate Wiggins and Brandon Stevens are where you want to attack the Ravens. So Pickens has a chance to dominate in each and every postseason game the Steelers play.
Yeah, you're not going to see Surtain.
No.
That's not going to happen. Unless it's AFC Championship
right,
game.
And you take it.
Right, yeah.
And it'd be in your place.
Yeah, let's do it. Right.
Houston.
Stingley's really good.
Stingley's
really good. Yeah.
But I'll take Pickens in that matchup.
I would too. But now that I think about it, that's the thing I like least about the Texans matchup is their edge rushers and Stingley.
Yeah.
But the offense is
But they also
shambles.
have to deal with the Steelers edge rushers.
Right, and their protection's really, really bad.
Really bad.
Yeah.
And then his third team on here is Detroit/Minnesota, whichever team loses that game. How'd you like to be that team?
I know. You're going to be You're going to be a 15-win team going on the road in week 1.
It's like the 97 in 1997 when the Broncos went 13-3 and didn't win their division.
Mm-hmm.
Came here and beat the Steelers not 97. I forget which year it was. Maybe it was 97. Yeah, whatever. The one year the Broncos were 13-3 and had to travel in the playoffs.
Yeah.
People, you lost to that wild card. Well, they were 13-3. They went on to win the Super Bowl.
So
or go to the Super Bowl.
Talking about this on an earlier show today. The last time a similar meeting to Vikings-Lions this late in the season occurred was 1990. Giants, Joe Montana, Niners. But they're not in the same division.
Right.
Like they were fighting for the first overall seed and the bye, but the loser didn't have to go on the road the next week. You didn't lose the division to the team you just lost to. This brings me back to last night, though. Boy, are the Lions fun. And I'm glad they won and great and bite kneecaps and all that good stuff. I would be so worried if I were them, though, the aggressive nature with the way they played. I mean, I didn't realize even until last night, they had the earliest bye week in the whole league. They've been running a marathon at a sprint pace forever. And if they lose to the Vikings, I could see them going to Tampa and getting beat.
For naught, yeah.
Right? You know what I mean? You got to pace yourself a little bit here. I think that they're running a race car in the red.
Frenetic, yeah. It's been frenetic all season long.
Absolutely.
So he has 3 predictions down here of playoff predictions. He thinks the Super Bowl will be between the Ravens and Vikings.
Wow. I'm not there on the Vikes, but
I don't know if the Ravens can get there either.
I think the Ravens can.
I don't know if they can go into Kansas City or into Buffalo and win.
I think Buffalo's a good matchup for them.
Yeah.
Because I don't like their run defense.
Their run defense is bad.
Yeah.
But if it's Buffalo in January or early February and it's 3 feet of snow, we've seen what that looks like.
I don't think – I respect the Vikes, and if they win, that'd be great. I think I'm taking the Eagles out of the NFC, assuming Hurts is back.
Well, here's the thing. So his next prediction is Justin Herbert will get his first playoff win. So if Justin Herbert is to get a playoff win this year, he's either going to have to do it
in Houston or in Baltimore.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Well, Baltimore's not going to go that way. Right. I would probably pick the Chargers in Houston, though.
Yeah.
It'd be close.
I don't think that's going to happen, but
I don't either, but that would be the path.
Yeah.
I'd be shocked if the Chargers went to Baltimore and won, but the Harbaugh factor.
How about this one? The Chiefs and Lions, as the top seeds in their respective conferences, will both be one and done.
Maybe. Who are the Chiefs most likely to see? Probably Steelers, Houston.
Winners of Pittsburgh. Yeah, Houston.
Yeah.
Or if it's the Chargers in Houston.
And the Lions would probably get the Vikings again.
Yeah.
Because the Vikings be the 5 seed going to Tampa or Atlanta as a favorite.
Although, if Tampa wins this week and the Rams lose, and the Rams aren't gonna, the Rams are sitting guys, the Rams could fall to the 4 seed and Tampa could move past them.
Either way, though, the Vikes, the loser of Lions-Vikings is going to be favored in the wild card round.
Tampa's already gone to Detroit and beat them earlier in the year. They have the firepower to do it.
They're a giant killer.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have some big wins. I think it's more likely the NFC because you might get the game this weekend, Lions-Vikings rematch in 2 weeks.
I think the Vikings win that game.
I think they're going to win this week.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I think they're going to win that game and be the top seed.
Right. I don't understand the Lions on a short week playing insane like that. It's great you won. I just think it's the Roosters coming to the Hens are coming to Roots or whatever.
Send a message to the 49ers who, by the way, don't give me the Kyle Shanahan stuff anymore. I don't want to hear anything about Kyle Shanahan being a great coach and being included in that upper echelon because he's now lost 10 games in a season 4 times in 8 years.
Yeah, half. That's rough.
Half of his seasons have ended with 10 losses.
He could use a kicker, too.
Yeah, well, he's tried to draft one.
I know. They're goofy about their kicker stuff.
Anyways, let's get to a break. He is the Matt Williamson.
He's another one, by the way. He's not a great personnel guy. It reminds me of end-of-career Belichick, where he has too much power in the room because every year he stands on the table for some 4th-round running back that is out of the league in a year or a kicker or a backup tight end, or something weird. I don't like him as a personnel guy.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Side note.
Or perhaps a game day manager as well at times.
Right. He's an offensive guru. Right.
Yeah, that's what he is. Anyways, let's get to a break. He is Matt Williamson. I am Dale Lolley. You're listening to The Drive here on the Steelers Audio Network. Matt and I will be back with more right after this. Welcome back. I'm Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson. And I had something I wanted to talk about as we were going through the Ben Solik article. I wanted to dive into it a little bit more.
Yeah. There is some Bengal stuff in there that's pretty good.
And then we started talking about something else off the air, and all of a sudden I was like, I can't remember what it was now.
Sometimes we get sidetracked, between segments here. There's a nice long break, and we start chatting, usually about football, but who knows what else. We were talking about, like, Cam Jordan.
Well, we were talking about that. And let's
Calais Campbell.
Let's dig into that a little bit.
Because Ezekiel Elliott's about to get released.
Yeah.
That's what's brought the conversation around.
So we've got some of these veteran players, and it came up 2 weeks ago with Calais Campbell.
Yeah.
That if the Dolphins had fallen out of the playoff race, they were going to release him so that he could go back to Baltimore
and do him a favor.
Yeah.
I mean, the way they said it was
Baltimore tried to acquire him at the trade deadline.
Okay.
And the Dolphins said no.
They're still in the hunt.
They were still in the hunt at that point. And so they figure, well, we could just, release him. He would have to go through waivers, but he could go back to the Ravens in that situation.
He could.
But there's no guarantee that's going to happen.
Well, because there's a million teams in between team number one and the Ravens that could grab him off waivers.
Right.
And pay him one paycheck, like the Steelers.
Like the Steelers. You actually just have the playoff check.
I guess you wouldn't even have to pay him for Week 18, huh? Well, you would, yeah.
Well, if they release him now.
Right, yeah.
If you signed him going into the playoffs, you get a playoff check.
Yeah. Well, Miami needs him this week. He's not the best example because he's nobody's going to claim Ezekiel Elliott.
No.
And the Cowboys are out of it. I brought up Cam Jordan. I guess there was a huge fuss around Cam Jordan. Yes, last week was the Saints' final home game of the year, and they made a big to-do as if this was going to be his last game, which it could be with the state of that team, that they could cut him after the season or move on or push him into retirement, whatever, put him in the ring on.
He's 35 years old. That might have just been it.
I think there's a good chance of that.
Because he is signed through next year.
Is he?
Yeah.
Okay. But you had some good points. Like, it's kind of cheating, dirty pool.
Yeah.
But there are some teams in between his desired destination could say, we're not letting you go to the Ravens.
Let you go to the Ravens.
Why would the Steelers do that?
Yeah.
I mean,
why would the Chargers do that? Why would any team that has to potentially play the Ravens in the first round of the playoffs let them get Calais Campbell going into the playoffs?
And think of the playoff teams. Most could use Calais Campbell on 30 snaps a game or whatever, just block punt kicks or whatever. Yeah, I do think it's a trend. Like you mentioned, the Dockway got dumped. And these teams that are out of it, if you're not going to bring them back, fine. But the other point you brought up I thought was really good too is, well, now those teams aren't going to get a comp pick for those guys that have expiring contracts.
Right.
And the new team could.
Correct.
If all it cost me is a waiver claim.
Yeah. If you, I think Calais Campbell was signed for just 1 year because
I would imagine
I think he's on 1 year.
Or 39.
Yeah, he's on 1 year deals basically.
He's from Miami and wanted to go home, and right.
He signed a 1 year, $2 million contract, but he played well this year.
Yes, I mean he's still good.
Yeah,
like unlike Zeke, I mean he's still good.
Right. So, but he'll be 39 next year. But could somebody give him 1 year?
$2 million again? Or 1.5 or whatever,
or 2.5 or 3.5 inflation. You say, well, he showed he still has something left here, and it helps your comp pick formula.
Yeah,
not a great deal, but
not a great deal. But let's say he gets dumped, and the Steelers are like, we're not letting him go to Baltimore. We'll just grab him, and him and his Walter Payton Men of the Year friends all get along here for a week or two. Cam Hayward says, why don't you run it back, Calais, and we'll do. Yeah, maybe we'll draft some. Maybe we'll wait a year, and we'll just have one more great defensive lineman. Or, thanks for hanging out and being a Steeler. When you sign with whoever next year, that helps our comp game.
Yeah.
I mean, what's really to lose, except for if you're Loudermilk or Lowry or somebody has to go, but maybe one of those guys has an expiring contract or whatever too, and you weren't going to bring him back.
Yeah. So, I mean, the team. You look at that, you wait. Well, what's this player going to be worth in our locker room?
Mm-hmm.
Is he going to play for us right away? Calais Campbell.
At that position, probably.
Yeah.
I'm not throwing a receiver in the mix.
You'll get 15, 20 snaps out of Calais Campbell. It's not like he hasn't played all year.
Yeah. He's been really good.
Yeah.
And he's like the highest character guy out there and, wants to win and all that stuff too.
So there's no guarantee that, if the Dolphins were, let's say they lose Sunday. Now, they haven't done this yet. They talked about it a couple of weeks ago if they fell out of the playoff race.
They're still alive.
So I don't know how that works. If they lose on Sunday and they then cut him, they can't because the season's over. I don't think that. I think
the contract is expired.
I think it's off the table at that point because everybody would just do that.
If they were got. So with him, I assume it's moot because they had to get eliminated a week ago or whatever to make it feasible, and they would be doing a solid for their player. I mean, he wants to go get playoff checks and maybe win a Super Bowl, et cetera. But I don't know how that could work with him now.
Yeah,
they need to win.
Like Ndakwe got cut today.
Yeah.
Now, I don't think he is a great player, but certainly there might be a playoff team. Detroit could use another pass rusher.
Give me 10 snaps a game as just an edge dude or whatever. I'm sure there's somebody considering him at this point. At least. Yeah. Or similar ones.
Yeah.
I mean, if Zeke was better, somebody would want him. You know, and the Cowboys would we're doing him a favor.
Or if you, let's say you're a playoff team and you had a rash of running back injuries.
Well, at least he can protect and he knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
And, right.
He's a veteran. He's not going to embarrass us out there.
It's better than picking up the guy off the couch.
Yeah. At least he's played all season long. It's not like he's going to need to warm up to this.
Yeah.
But
it's a weird little trend going on in the league that I don't know if they have to nip it in the bud with the next, agreement or whatever, or is it just what we're going to do? You're going to do guys a favor and let them go once you're eliminated so they can go on another team.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, if I'm the team that's doing that, I'm like, I'm not getting anything out of this.
I'd like to at least get a 6th-round pick or
I still have to pay the guy.
Yeah.
Unless
trade
somebody
deadline came and went.
Unless somebody claims him
and he's not helping my comp pick.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you have to – that's a true favor.
Really is.
Yeah.
So
it is.
Anyways, that's going to do it for hour number 1 of the drive here on the Steelers Audio Network. Matt and I will be back with hour number 2 right after this. And we are back. I am Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson. And, Matt, it is time for a little fantasy football focus.
Yeah.
We'll do this a little, do this for this week's games a little bit, differently. We usually on Wednesdays go through the injury reports and stuff. Part of the injury reports this week, even if you're not doing any fantasy stuff, is who's playing and who's not.
And who has something to play for and who's going to sit down, and it's a hard thing to figure out.
There's a lot of news with that. But before we get into that, according to Yahoo Fantasy Sports, who are one of the big hosting platforms, the 5 players who are on the most championship teams.
Okay.
That if you won your championship this week, these are the guys that got you the championship.
So these are guys that we talked about this off the air. That's why I'm making it clear, because they were actually in your lineup on championship
The guys who were
weekend.
in championship lineups.
Because ESPN used to do it where who are the most ones that took you to the championship?
Yeah.
The 11th round pick that end up hitting big, Lamar's rookie year, those type of ones, which is a different conversation.
Yeah. So in this week, it was starting from the bottom up. If you had Adam Thielen in your lineup, 68.22% of their championship winners had Adam Thielen in their lineup. 69% of their champions had Joe Burrow in the lineup.
Yeah, Bengals were strong.
70.07%, I should say, had Lab McConkey in the lineup.
Okay.
73.19% of winning lineups had Malik Neighbors
in the lineup. That doesn't surprise me either, right?
And 76.83% had T. Higgins.
Sure.
Including me.
Yeah. 3 touchdowns.
3 touchdowns.
Yep.
So if you look at it that way, 4 receivers in the top 5.
And a quarterback, yeah.
And a quarterback means a lot of people had multiple of those guys.
Oh, yeah.
You were winning your championship. You had T. Higgins and Malik Neighbors in your lineup.
Mm-hmm.
You were walking away with the championship.
And you may have picked Thielen up off of waivers.
Right.
I mean, so it'd be different, and it could be the case. It could be Chase and Jefferson, where they had the best 2. But you didn't know team has both.
Right.
Where some team might have had all 5 of those. I mean, it's possible.
It's possible.
You could have drafted all 5 and picked up all 5. They're not super expensive on draft day. It's not
McConkey, was a late draft pick. Or late-ish, I should say. He was certainly later than Higgins or Neighbors.
Oh, yeah.
You know, in fact, of that group, I mean, to your point, Thielen was probably undrafted in a lot of leagues.
Undrafted in a lot of leagues, or not picked up for a while. You
Yeah.
know, right. Didn't he have injuries early on, too?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
he probably was
now
on
he
waivers.
was coming off a 100-catch season last year, but
And then their offense was so bad, everybody's getting cut off at that.
yeah.
I am interested in the other side of it, too, though. Like, if you drafted that guy at his ADP, wow, was that a home run? You know what I mean? Like, you had him at the right time.
Well, if we go back and look at just the draft from our league, and look at some of the values.
Yeah. I always go back to Lamar's rookie year.
Oh, yeah.
Or no, actually, it was his second year. It was insane. Yeah.
Pat Mahomes' second year was.
Yeah. You got those guys, like, after round 10. They can be any good or not. Not sure. You know, I haven't seen a lot from them yet, you know?
Yeah, I'm just looking here. Late round draft picks, round 16.
I say, like, look at the
that was all kickers.
Yeah, kickers and defense.
Thank Bigsby got drafted in the 16th round. That was okay. But not
he's not a
necessarily
league winner.
Not a league winner.
No. And a lot of those guys get cut, of course, over the course of the year.
Bucky Irving in round 15.
That's a league winner.
Yeah.
That's a league winner.
Yeah.
And like people talk about, this guy could win you a league. Drafting Bucky Irving in the 15th round, that
pretty
wins you
good.
your league.
Yeah, pretty
the
good.
The only problem with those guys is whoever that owner was probably was a week or two too late to put him in the lineup. But once you did, he never took him out. Right.
Your team, on the other hand, you took Jordan Mason early.
Yeah.
In the 15th round. We did our draft before the McCaffrey news came out.
Yeah, I just threw him out as a
You
flyer.
wrote him early in the season.
I thought McCaffrey was going to be the one.
Yeah.
Right. But I got 4 or 5 good weeks out of him before he got hurt.
Yeah.
For a 16th round pick.
Looking here in round 14, Rico Dowdell went in round 14.
That's huge.
Yeah.
He was big for me to get to the finals because he was a throw-in in the most recent trade I made, and he wasn't great. I just went like, I need a running back. Just give me your worst running back, and that's who we decided on. But then he took off.
Baker Mayfield in round 13.
You'll take that all day long, too.
But that was also the guy who had Lamar Jackson, so he started Baker Mayfield once.
Yeah.
But held on to him all year. I would have traded him.
I would say, what if you would trade Lamar for Neighbors?
Yeah.
Or somebody like that, some star receiver or running back, which would have been fair value.
That guy's not bright enough to do that. Looking here in round 12, Jared Goff went in round 12.
Yeah.
Got cut.
I picked him up.
Oh, you picked him up.
Yeah.
Darnell Mooney in round 12.
That's a nice one.
That's a nice pickup.
He's another one that takes a while till you start starting him and trusting him.
Yeah.
But, for that investment, it's great.
Let's see here.
The mid-rounds might even be more loaded.
Jamison Williams in round 11.
I think he's
solid pick. Yeah, it's a solid pick.
Especially after last night. I mean, he keeps stepping up more and more.
Round 10, I got Brock Bowers.
That's a stud. That's a league winner.
Yeah.
That's right there.
That's a pretty good one. Thielen went in that round, actually, in our draft. He didn't get held on to, as did McConkey.
Really? Okay.
How about that? If those
all
teams
adds up, yeah.
The McConkey team, I think he stuck with him all season long. Thielen got cut.
Yeah, I don't think McConkey in most leagues got cut, but Thielen probably did. There was some down times early in the season for the Panthers and Thielen.
Yeah.
But Bauer's a perfect example. I mean, he stayed healthy the whole year. There was so many tight end injuries back and forth, and he'll probably be tight end 1 next year.
Chase Brown went in round 9.
That's huge.
That's a good pick.
I took him and then traded him.
Jerry Jeudy got taken in round 10, but then cut. Or round 9 and then cut, I should say.
Because he needed Winston to be worth anything.
Yeah.
I mean, his whole season's the Winston stint.
Brian Thomas in round 9.
No, now you're talking.
Yeah.
Now you're talking.
Now we're getting some.
Every week starting receiver, wide receiver 1 or 2 in the 9th round, yeah.
For a large portion of the season, Brian Robinson in round 8 was pretty darn solid.
Again, you start him every week.
Yeah. I got Jackson Smith and Jigba in round 8.
That absolutely qualifies. I think he'll be like a 3rd rounder next year.
Cortland Sutton went in round 8.
That's
a solid
too.
one.
Yeah.
Jordan Addison in round 8. That was pretty good.
That too.
Round 7, George Kittle.
Yeah.
Long after many of the other tight ends have been taken.
What was the knock on him? Just so many mouths to feed there, I think.
I think
Getting
so,
up in
yeah.
age a little bit.
Yeah.
Seems dumb now, but I guess Ayuk wasn't there all year, and
Terry McLaurin went in round 7.
Yeah.
That's pretty solid.
He's had a really good year. A little quiet lately, but.
David Montgomery went in round 7, 1 pick before I was going to take him.
Mm-hmm.
You took Jaden Daniels in round 7.
That was my league best pick, probably.
Yeah.
Right. Because he was my first quarterback taken, I think, from what I remember.
Tony Pollard went in round 7, 1 pick ahead of Tyjae Spears.
I do remember even on my running back list, I had them like right next to each other.
Yeah.
Like, how's this going to shake out?
And then Chris Godwin in round 7.
It was awesome until he got hurt.
Yeah. And David Njoku in round 7.
Yeah,
which
you'll take that all day long.
Once
right.
Winston got in there. And then at round 6 up, you're looking at
Yeah. I mean, it's more busts at that point. You know?
Yeah.
Just curious, who were like the first round busts? McCaffrey's the biggest
Oh,
one
the
ever.
first McCaffrey, Breece Hall went second.
Which
was
is
okay.
Rich. I mean,
Yeah.
but he won't be in the top 5 next year.
No. CeeDee Lamb went third.
His stock won't fall much, though.
No.
You know,
Tyreek Hill went fourth.
where do you think he goes next year? Probably not in the first round.
Second round, probably.
Yeah.
Bijan Robinson went 5.
He might be 1 or 2 next year.
Amon-Ra St. Brown went 6.
His stock hasn't changed
Justin Jefferson went 7 to me.
because he had a little bit of issues at the time.
Yeah.
You know, quarterback stuff.
Jamar Chase went 8
He'll
to
still be
you.
the top 2 receivers.
Jonathan Taylor went 9,
Think he's a first rounder next year?
probably.
Probably at the end.
Yeah.
But like I'd take Gibbs ahead of him, who we haven't mentioned. Probably Henry.
Garrett Wilson went 10.
I don't know what to think about him. At the
You don't have no idea what the
Right.
quarterback situation is. Jameer Gibbs went 11,
He'll go up. He'll be higher than that next year.
and then Kyron Williams went 12.
You think he goes right in that neighborhood? That first round's not as busty as I thought.
No. I mean, the guys
like Hill and Lamb are.
That's
not
actually
great,
the
but-
top part of the round was where most of your busts were at.
I mean, everyone on the planet took McCaffrey 1. And
Yeah.
No one knew the information, so that one's almost like an asterisk by it.
In round 2, Isaiah Pacheco was 13.
I don't think he'll go in the top 15 next
No.
year.
A.J. Brown went 13,
He's
or
gonna be
14,
right
I should
there
say.
again.
Saquon Barkley,
He'll be top 2 or 3.
Puka Nacua,
I think he's higher next year than this year.
Devin Achane.
Probably higher.
You took Achane, I took Drake London.
Think London goes right about there again?
He's pretty solid this
Pretty
year.
solid, yeah. He's really good.
Travis Etienne then went.
That one hurts.
That one hurt. Then Derrick Henry went. That's why Etienne really hurt, because Etienne was the next pick, or Henry was the next pick. Marvin Harrison Jr.
Yeah.
Yuck. Cooper Kupp.
Again,
Not in the second
Not
round.
great, right.
Yeah. Devontae Adams. You struggled
up
with
and down.
Yeah,
I
you
mean,
struggled with some
that was
stuff.
a roller coaster.
And then Rashad White was the last pick of the second round.
Nobody saw Bucky Irving coming.
Yeah.
It wasn't as busty in the top 25 as I thought, but there's a lot of change. There's also not a massive group of injuries either.
Yeah, those swings
There's been
misses.
some years that running backs just get wiped out by injury.
In the third round, you had Michael Pittman, Alvin Kamara, Sam Laporta.
First tight end?
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah. Josh Jacobs,
That's a nice one.
Mike Evans, James Cook. I took Chris Olave. I couldn't believe he was still there.
Yeah.
That didn't work out so well.
I think I would have with the next pick. Am I up after that?
Yeah, you took Jalen Waddle.
I would have taken Olave over Waddle.
Joe Mixon.
Neither worked out, really.
Yeah.
Mixon was worth it.
Brandon Ayuk.
That's an ouch, yeah.
Nico Collins.
Great, but he missed some time. He'll go much earlier next year.
And then Kenneth Walker.
Okay. I don't know. Next year's draft's going to be drastically different. I mean, there's obviously some guys moving up and down,
Yeah.
but it's not like, boy, this is earth-shattering difference from
No.
year to year.
Yeah. So that's kind of the way it went there. And
When was the first quarterback taken? Or did you just
next
click on
round.
it? Okay.
The next
I
round
assume
was,
it was Allen.
Josh Allen.
And I think Hurts.
No,
was
actually,
likely after.
Lamar went.
Lamar went ahead of Allen and
Yeah.
Hurts.
Yeah. Allen was picked 2 picks later.
Hmm.
And then Hurts was at the end of that round. And not surprisingly, none of those teams, well, the 2 teams that took Jackson and Allen both made the semifinals and lost to us
Yeah.
with our deeper, more well-constructed units.
Allen was an odd one because there are 3 of my dynasty leagues where I was the biggest point scorer of all. But I lost that round because, of course, I started Allen and he only got like 14 points.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, like, I had some other guys that didn't do great, but I was clearly the best team in all 3 of those leagues and got knocked out the same round with the number 1 quarterback in dynasty. I mean, that's just kind of how fantasy works.
Yeah. Looking at this week's injury reports, Jake Moody will remain the 49ers kicker in Week 18. There's no reason to change now.
Right, yeah.
But Brock Purdy likely to miss Week 18.
Why would he play? Right.
He's dealing with a right elbow contusion and some nerve inflammation.
There's some nerve stuff going on.
Yeah,
I would think he's not playing.
Yeah, not playing. Ezekiel Elliott released, as you mentioned. He got 74 whole carries this season.
Yeah, not the best move.
We mentioned when we were going through the Bengals injury report, Chase Brown, a non-participant.
I'd be shocked if he goes.
Yeah.
By the look of it.
Brown wants to play, but he's 10 yards short of 1,000.
I get it. That's cool, but if your knee shot.
Yeah. Can you run ahead 10 times, straight ahead 10 times and get your 1,000 yards? And
I hope they do, because that's not exactly efficient football.
Yeah, that's not exactly what you want to do
football
here.
Games, right.
Xavier Legette is going to need surgery in the offseason for his wrist.
Well, at least that's something he'll be back from reasonably quick. That shouldn't stunt his career too much.
Looks like the Rams.
You think they bring back Thielen? He's a free agent after the year.
Probably.
They have all those young receivers. I would try to if I were them.
Yeah, I would.
Would you consider them if you were Steelers?
That's
how everyone's going to say.
I'd have to see what else is out there.
Yeah.
Matthew Stafford and the starters may sit in Week 18.
So
they
could either be. They won the division, right?
They've clinched the division title.
But they could go to 4.
Yeah.
I would sit them too. At his age.
That could get you a matchup with the loser of the Detroit-Minnesota game.
Right. As opposed to Packers or whoever is Washington. Yeah. I guess that's when you go to Stafford and be like, how you feeling, dude? You want to play or not?
Yeah.
How important is it to you?
Yeah.
At his age. He's earned that.
I mentioned Yannick Ngakoue waived by the Patriots. The Browns finally placed Cedric Tillman on IR.
That poor guy. That's kind of been underreported. That's been a concussion for like 5 weeks.
Yeah, that happened against the Steelers the first time.
Yeah, that's a long time to be in concussion protocol.
Yeah. Daniel Jones could be added to the Vikings 53-man roster for Week 18.
Okay, so he's going to be the true backup, I guess.
Yeah,
makes sense. That's why they picked him up.
Kendre Miller placed in concussion protocol. Could be Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Against leading the Saints backfield against the
I think he played a fair amount this week.
Aaron Jones with a quad injury expected to practice this week.
You're going to push him. Yeah, you're going to push him. He's going to play.
Derek Carr will have his hand reevaluated heading into Week 18.
Yeah, I heard that there's actually a legit chance he plays.
Chris Olave with that concussion finally expected to practice this week. He's been out forever as well.
Mm-hmm. I wonder if you're him, if you just want to get one game in post-concussion or go out there and run 20 routes or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like one of their only foundational pieces.
Jaden Daniels and the starters will play in Week 18 for Washington.
What do they have on the line? Just seedings?
Seeding, yeah. They could win this 6 seed and face the Rams instead of the Eagles in the wild card round by moving up a spot.
Guess it's worth it. They have the Cowboys, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Jalen Waddle, optimistic for Week 18 for the Dolphins.
No, they're going to give it a shot.
Yeah.
And try to win it.
Bryce Young and the starters will play in Week 18 for the Carolina Panthers.
Good,
they have no reason not to.
No, just keep building on what you're doing.
Josh Allen and the Bills starters will start in Week 18 but be taken out quickly.
That sounds like a series.
Yeah.
Hand it off 3 times, and Mitch, you're in. Put a baseball cap on.
The Chargers are unsure if they'll play their starters in Week 18, and that might depend on what happens in the Steeler game.
Yeah, they have the luxury of knowing more things.
Which is why the league doesn't like to do this.
Yeah. And it's an almost impossible puzzle to put together that everyone has fair footing.
Yeah.
But if the Steelers were playing when the Chargers were playing, the Chargers were playing when the Steelers were playing, you'd have an advantage.
Right.
Being the Sunday team. Just knowing things.
Here's the thing, though, for them. Josh Palmer with the heel expected to require an IR stint.
Oh, really?
That's bad for them.
I was just thinking more along the lines of Herbert. He's had like 5 different injuries this year, including the Liz Frank, which I bet has never healed. I would love to sit him if I were them.
Yeah. Elijah Molden also out for the season for them. They're starting free safety.
They got some new injuries.
Yeah. Justice Hill expected back this week for the Ravens.
Okay. They use him. He's a third down back.
The Chiefs could be getting Jalen Watson back for the postseason.
Yeah, I don't know how much playing time he'll have, but he makes plays.
McCole Hardman could return for the postseason.
Would he even be active for them?
Probably not.
Right.
Now,
they get a lot of receivers all of a sudden.
Tua Tagovailoa with that hip issue His status is uncertain for Week 18. That's kind of a big deal.
It's a huge deal. Huntley wasn't horrible.
Yeah, the Browns' offense was, and that didn't help.
But they might beat the Jets with Huntley.
Yeah. Now, they were asked, Mike McDaniels was asked if that's the same, if this is connected to the hip issue that Tagovailoa had in college.
I'd say that's a Bama thing.
He said, no, this has nothing to do with that. So that's a plus.
Unfortunately for that guy, every injury just is red flags galore.
Oh,
yeah.
Caleb Williamson, a starter, is expected to play for the Bears in Week 18, but it's a road game. Don't start him on the road in Green Bay.
And they're going to have a new staff there, too, but you want to play the young guys.
Yeah. Cade Otton, status uncertain for Week 18. He's dealing with that knee injury.
I would think you want to keep him fresh for the wild card
I would
round.
think so, yeah. Shaq Mason missed practice on Monday.
Starting guard, who, like everyone on that line, has kind of crumbled, but used to be good.
They did get Juice Scruggs back, though.
Okay.
So one out, one back.
Mm-hmm.
Deontay Johnson practicing on Monday for the Houston Texans.
Would you want to get him fired up in this game just to get him in uniform and catch a pass or two in case you really need to rely on him?
If your quarterback doesn't play, it doesn't do you any good. They're gonna rest starters.
I know. He just hasn't played in so long.
Yeah.
Does he know the playbook? Can
right.
he, do it in a stadium, as Coach Solomon says?
A couple last things here. Tyjae Spears dealing with a concussion. His status up in the air for Week 18. But Tony Pollard could return. He was dealing with an illness and an ankle issue last week. And then the Titans also will play both Mason Rudolph and Will Levis.
That was in there. I thought that was interesting. It was both of you guys audition a little bit, and we'll see what happens.
See which one we keep going into next season.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, for fantasy, I'm not real interested in any Titan for this week, I wouldn't think. But
no, not super.
Chase's been good. Ridley's been good, But that's weird with the quarterbacks.
Yeah, absolutely. But
I don't say it's wrong. It's just an interesting approach.
Yeah. That's the Fantasy Football Focus. Matt and I are going to take another break. When we come back, it is Power Ranking Day. Let's go through those and see who we think should be up, who we think should be down right after this. And we are back. I am Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson. And, Matt, it is time to dig into I guess this is the final regular season.
Next year or next week or not.
It's the final one of the regular season.
I suppose.
Because next week will be playoffs.
Yeah.
So, playoffs.
Well, let's dig in.
Playoffs? So these are Eric Edholm's
rankings. Would the
rankings.
Saints pass your Giants to be 32 after 1 week of another miserable loss and a win for the Giants? I think they're the only two contenders. Well, the Patriots are really bad, too.
None of those teams are who he has at 32.
Okay.
There's somebody else you're not thinking of.
They're that bad, though. I mean, the Giants are running away with it and only happen to get a win.
The Tennessee Titans.
I still think they would win against all those teams more often.
They lost to the Jaguars twice in the last 3 weeks.
Oh, they're not good. I mean, man.
The Jaguars were living down here for a long time.
I know. Patriots have like 3 good players.
The Patriots are 31. They're down 3 spots.
Okay. So they think the Saints beat either one of those teams, right?
I guess.
Currently constructed. I don't know. I agree with that.
At 30, the Cleveland Browns.
Pretty miserable.
As currently constructed. If you're going to tell me that DTR and they're bad.
I'd say, is that the worst offense in the league on New Year's Eve?
Yes.
Strong case for it.
They can't even operate.
Right. Saints are pretty bad. Like the Giants are way better on offense than those guys. Ugh.
Yuck. At 29, up 3 spots are the Giants.
I mean, there's so many awful teams. A win goes a long way.
Yeah. At 28, up 2 spots, the Jaguars.
Yeah. Beating up on the Titans.
At 27, up 2 spots, the Raiders. They've won 2 in a row.
Yeah, okay. O'Connell's not terrible.
Yeah.
I think he could be.
He'll be a long-time backup in the league.
I think he'll have a Minshew Fitzpatrick career.
Yeah.
Probably play for 10 teams,
At 26, holding steady, the Jets.
Boy, they were, I thought, the saddest team of all.
They were garbage.
Yeah. I mean, miserable, old, bad.
Didn't want to be there.
No.
It all started with Aaron Rodgers doing the walkout before the game started as they're coming out of the tunnel.
Mm-hmm.
And they had this big, they don't call them boom boxes anymore. They call them bump box. It's a
giant thing.
And they're playing Gangster's Paradise by Coolio, which is about, 30 years old?
Right. It was just Old folks home. Yeah.
I mean, nothing gets you pumped up like a 30-year-old.
Yeah, I'm not sure
rap song.
the rookies were as into that. Right.
That would be like why are you playing? Like when I was in high school, we come out and we're coming out to Buddy Holly and the Crickets.
Yeah, Lawrence Welk.
30 years old.
Right. Yeah,
like,
right,
come
right.
on, man. What are we doing here?
Yeah, I don't remember this. Right.
Every day. Things are good. 25, the Carolina Panthers.
That's the first respectable team.
Yeah. They don't win a lot.
They don't win a lot, but they're kind of into it.
Although they weren't last week. They got smoked.
They did.
24, the Bears.
Yeah, I guess they're the best yet, but they're pretty miserable.
At 23, you finally have the Saints.
That's wrong.
Yeah, that's
They're wrong. I mean, you watched the Packer game 2 weeks ago? That was the worst performance any team had all year.
Well, Darren Rizzi this week is trying to go 4-4 as the interim coach.
I get that they have some wins in the second half of the season.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess that's the argument. But.
That was when they had a quarterback.
Right. And
now, Carr might be back this week. We'll see, and that might make a difference.
Like Olave might. I would say the weapons are terrible, too.
Oh, they're awful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Without Kamara, and
At 22 are the Colts. Welcome to the club, boys. They didn't move at all.
Yeah.
But that's where they're at. They lost to the Giants this week with a playoff spot on the line.
So we always do,
We're
we just
bad.
started doing that. When a team gets officially eliminated, we just do like a whole segment on them. And today was the Colts, and I stole your Fields idea of what I do, but I think coaching staff is a problem. Defensive staff, it's a real problem. And I think they're the only team that got eliminated this week, like truly eliminated. Cardinals were already eliminated.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure. I just kind of scanned my head real quick, and that's the only one I could come up with.
It's the only one. They're only one in the AFC because everybody else had already been eliminated.
Still alive.
Yeah,
right.
At 21, down a spot, the Cowboys.
They're on the same tier. They're both
No
mediocre.
CeeDee Lamb. I mean,
now it's over.
Yeah.
Yeah, they put up a fight for a while.
At 20, up a spot, the 49ers. Well, I don't know to bump the 49ers up a spot and the Cowboys down a spot. I left them right where they were at.
Niners were good last night, though. I mean, if you can make a kick, they lost by 6. They had 2 mixed kicks. That and 2 interceptions were the difference, but don't throw interceptions.
Yeah, don't throw interceptions, and missed kicks do happen if you don't have a good kicker.
Yeah, but that was against the Lions.
You're allowed to have a good
wasn't
kicker.
Against the Saints.
That Lions defense is
it's a problem.
atrocious.
I don't think they can go through the playoffs with that defense and win.
No.
I agree.
19 is the Cardinals.
It's fine.
18, the Dolphins.
Dolphins better than the Cardinals? Probably. Assuming 2 is in there, yeah.
17, down 2 spots, are the Falcons.
Penix is interesting in that we all want to get excited about him, and I think there should be excitement about him. He's only played 2 games, but if you watch that game, the broadcasters never mentioned like all the open throws he missed. There were a lot.
Yeah.
And there was, the deep ball doesn't have a lot of arc on it yet, or maybe ever. Like it's not like, we got another one that's next coming.
It's not a perfect situation.
Right,
He's just better than Kirk Cousins.
100%. And the move should have been made a month ago.
Which, if you're watching that game, they kept talking about. I can't remember which game it was because I've watched 1,000 games in the last.
It was against Washington. It was a fun.
Yeah, but I've watched a bunch of different games, and somebody was talking about all the quarterbacks that are going to be out there. Maybe this team signs Kirk Cousins. Who in their right mind would want to sign Kirk Cousins based off of what he put on the field this year?
Yeah, I've heard people like, someone might trade for him. Like, no way.
There's no way. No, you're not eating that contract. It's like almost fully guaranteed. It's a ridiculous deal.
Right. Could he get the Wilson deal next year? If he gets cut, he's got a lot of guaranteed money from the old
potential.
team.
If you didn't have to pay him,
that's what I mean. If you
that would make more sense
a year,
than bringing him in and hoping he's the savior.
Right.
Because you're paying him a bunch of money, because that's not who he is at this point.
Yeah, I'm thinking the team that drafts Shedeur Sanders also has Cousins. I mean, he becomes the big brother mentor type at $1 million a year.
Speaking of which, somebody on the message board today said, "I'm going to remember your Shedeur Sanders take." First of all, I don't give takes. I give my opinion. I'm not 12. I don't work for the station across town. These are not takes. I'm not giving you a hot take. These are my opinions. I don't know that Shedeur Sanders from what I have seen, is going to be a good NFL quarterback. If his name were Shedeur Lolley or Shedeur Williamson, I don't know that people would be talking about him as being the top pick in this draft.
I was going to name my kid Shedeur.
You should have.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I don't know enough about him, but I'm not blown away at the point.
I'm not blown away. I see a lot of sideways passes.
Mm-hmm. Accurate, but I think also the one thing about him that I have noticed is because his last name isn't Lolley or Williamson, they think he's a really good athlete.
And he's not. He's more Tua Tagovailoa than he is Jaden Daniels.
He got a little bit of mommy's genes from athleticism.
Apparently.
Not all dads, because dad was like the best athlete I've ever seen.
Yeah. And again, I'm not saying he
might be great. I may change my opinion. I haven't studied him.
Depending where he lands.
Yeah.
I think he's going to be a systems quarterback in the NFL.
But for the turn of the new year, where I always am in draft prospects, usually the top quarterback I like a lot better than this guy.
I would not take him number 1 overall. That's just me.
Mm-hmm.
Me putting that out there on December 31st.
Exactly, right.
I haven't studied this. I haven't looked at all this tape and seen all that stuff. I haven't seen any of that
stuff.
Very,
very early for draft takes.
I like Cam Ward better.
I get that.
He has a better arm. So at 16, up a spot, the Seattle Seahawks.
I think they're the best team yet.
Yeah. And may not get in.
Successful year, though, I would say.
I
mean, considering it's a whole new coaching staff. Bring back Geno, add to it, get some linemen, see where you're at.
If they don't get in, they can point directly to losing to the Giants at home in Week 5.
Ooh. I mean, every team has one of those, give or take, but that's at the bottom of the list.
I thought Mike Tomlin only coached those games. Right. You only lose games that you're
supposed to win, right?
Yeah.
Because underdogs never win.
Yeah.
That's a bad one, though.
The Seahawks lost to the Giants at home.
Mm-hmm.
At home.
Wow. Seattle's not as hard a place to play as people think.
Not what it used to be.
The record's not as good as it has been.
At 15, up a spot, the Bengals.
Yeah, that's proper. I bet a lot of people would have them higher because of the win streak. They're still an even Steven, bad defense.
They're a middle-of-the-road team.
Yeah.
At 14, down a spot, the Houston Texans.
Who's better of those two today?
I'd still take the Texans over the Bengals. They're a more complete
Their
team.
defense is quite good.
It's much better than Cincinnati's.
Not even close.
And I think Joe Mixon would run all over that Cincinnati defense because he would be highly motivated to do so.
Yeah. I don't think the Texans' offense is as broken as the Bengals' defense.
Yeah. Bengals' defense is bad.
Yeah.
Like I said last week, the Bengals' defense, if we're putting 62 units out there or 64 units out there, it's in the bottom 4 or 5.
I definitely thought so the second the whistle blew after the Steelers win. I think it's gotten a little better.
They've taken the ball away
and they've gotten some sacks. So I'd say at least they've saved their butts a little bit.
They finally figured out, as I was watching the game the other night, I'm like, oh, they finally figured out, hey, let's not have Mike Hilton cover somebody. Let's have him blitz on every play because that's what he does best.
That's what he does best.
Because he doesn't cover anybody. Not that he doesn't cover anybody, but he's not great in coverage. But we're going to blitz him because he's really good at that.
So my dad just sent us a text.
Yes.
Said, Mom pushed me to name you Shedeur. In a weak moment, I almost gave in. Glad you didn't, Dad. Happy New Year, buddy.
I've already told you what you should have named your son Michael. What his middle name should have been, but
not all of this is for on the air.
Not
right?
for on the air.
There's some stories.
At 13, down 2 spots, the Denver Broncos.
I'm cool with that. They're hard to play against.
Yeah,
and they have a good defense. They can run the ball. Really good O-line.
At 12, holding steady, the Rams.
I put the Rams over the Broncos.
Yeah.
Quarterback.
Yeah. At 11, up 3 spots, Tampa Bay.
Baker's been really good. And they can run the ball. They have an O-line. They have enough weapons.
The defense isn't great.
No, it's not.
But neither is the Rams.
Right. And he'll scheme things up. Those 3 are pretty similar to me.
Yeah.
In terms of power ranking.
At 10, down a spot, the Steelers.
I get it,
but I don't agree with it.
So who's next?
I would still have them ahead of the Chargers.
Yeah. It's funny because it wasn't malicious, believe it or not, that after the Chargers game on Saturday, I got a nicely worded tweet basically saying, I think the Chargers are more buttoned up, better shape than the Steelers. And I understand that take, and especially after watching those games on Christmas and then against...
It's a little recency bias.
And my answer was, I don't disagree, but look at the level of opponents lately.
Correct.
Right.
Right.
I don't think the Chargers will look like that against
They're
the
not
Eagles,
out there.
Chiefs,
They're not out there beating the snot out of good teams.
No, I mean, they beat a horrendous team this past week.
Their wins are over the Raiders, the Panthers, lost to the Steelers 20-10 with Justin Fields at quarterback, lost to the Chiefs, beat the Broncos twice, good for them.
Yeah, that's great.
Lost to the Cardinals.
That's kind of their signature moment of the season, beating Denver twice.
2 wins over
yeah,
the Broncos.
Which is good, yeah.
Lost to the Cardinals, beat the Saints, beat the Browns, beat the Titans, beat the Bengals, okay. Lost to the Ravens, beat the Falcons, lost to Kansas City, got crushed by Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
That was in Week 15. That's not that long ago. That was 40-17. Beat the Broncos, and then they beat the Patriots, and you're going to move them up.
Yeah. I mean, the Patriot thing is that
I don't care.
That was a non-competitive
You beat
game.
You beat the Patriots 40-7. You should beat the Patriots 40-7. It shouldn't be. It shouldn't be a contest.
I would have the Steelers ahead of the Chargers, but they're in the same neighborhood today.
At 9, he has the Chargers.
Yeah, yeah.
At 8, the Commanders.
That's a little rich.
I think the Steelers are a better team than the Commanders.
I think the Chargers are a better team than the Commanders.
Yeah.
A little rich. Who was right behind the Steelers?
Tampa Bay.
I would have the Commanders over Tampa.
Yeah.
I'm not sold on Washington's defense either.
No, I'm not either. I think it's
a year
troublesome.
away.
Yeah, troublesome. At 7, down a spot is Green Bay.
They should be falling a little bit, though. The 6 ahead of them are clearly ahead of them, I think.
I think the Steelers and Packers are on the same level.
I do, too. And when it's all said and done, I'd probably take them both ahead of Washington and the Chargers.
Yes.
Yeah.
The only difference to me between the Steelers and Packers right now is that the Steelers have a quote-unquote signature win over the Ravens. The Packers don't have one of those.
No. They're very cut and dry.
Their best win is kind of Seattle.
Is it? Yeah. I mean, I know their 5 losses are very respectable losses.
Yeah.
Win one of them.
Yeah, you're allowed to win one of those.
Division teams.
You start looking at the Steelers and they're 5-3 against playoff teams right now. And the Packers don't match up quite as well in that regard.
I hear you.
At 6 up a spot is Baltimore.
I might have them higher, but I understand the teams ahead of them are good.
5 down a spot is Philadelphia. I think you still have to have Philadelphia ahead of Baltimore. They played them. They played them like 3 weeks ago and
I would
beat
not
them
rank
handily.
Philly as if Pickett's the quarterback.
No.
I would rank him as Hurts.
Yeah, Hurts should be back.
Yeah.
At 4 up a spot is Minnesota.
Okay.
And I've been slow on Minnesota.
Me
They're
too.
14-2.
It's
14-2 is 14-2.
I might have all 3 of them ahead of the Lions. Lions defense might be the weakest unit of the top 6 teams. Now their offense is near the top.
Yeah, it might be number 1.
Might be number 1, but that defense to me is concerning.
Yeah, it's definitely troublesome.
Yeah.
At 3, holding steady are the Lions.
Okay. They've had a great year. I'm not trying to crush the Lions, but I don't love where they're at.
I don't either. At 2, holding steady is Buffalo, and then Kansas City is number 1.
Okay. Top 6 are pretty clear. And really, the order isn't clear. But the top 6 to me are the best teams in the league.
Yeah.
All right.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
I would agree with that. I just think that Pittsburgh and Green Bay are 7 and 8, kind of on a tier, that next tier by themselves.
I tend to agree. Yeah.
And if there were a team that I thought could be on that tier with them, I think it might be Tampa Bay.
I don't know that the Chargers can get there. I don't know that Washington could get there. Could Houston start playing like that? I've been saying that for like 3 months.
So. I don't think so. I think that ship has sailed for this season. I think they are what they are.
I said this over and over after Week 14. I'm like, I think Houston and Baltimore will get things right after this late bye. I was half right.
I think the scariest quote unquote wild card teams going into this, or teams in that first round who aren't going to be necessarily the favorites, are Pittsburgh, Green Bay,
Tampa.
and Tampa. And Tampa's going to win their division. But
Yeah. But they'll probably be a dog.
Probably.
Because they probably get the Lions or Minnesota.
They're going to get Lions or Minnesota, and I would not be surprised at all if they won that game.
At home. Yeah, I can see that.
I don't know.
They have a little bit of a giant killer thing to them.
I don't know that Denver or the Chargers,
Washington.
They're
all teams that kind of outkicked their coverage this year.
Yeah, I don't
It's
know
a
that those
successful
teams.
year, even if they're one and done, building on something.
I don't know that any of those teams could go in
quarterbacks.
and pull an upset in the first round of the playoffs.
No, I lean that way too.
But I think
I don't think they walk into Baltimore or Buffalo and win.
I think the Packers, Steelers, and Bucks could all win as underdogs in the opening round.
Mm-hmm.
The Bucks will be at home.
I don't know if the Steelers are going to be a dog. I mean, if they're playing Houston today, would they be a dog? I don't know. I bet not, even in their building.
Yeah.
Assuming Pickens and Porter and all those guys are playing.
Right.
Yeah, I think the Steelers are 2 or 3 point favorites.
It could be. Could be.
Protection would be a problem.
And there's people screaming at the radio right now, you guys are idiots.
No, sure.
We're just giving our opinion.
Yeah.
These aren't hot takes.
Houston's a problem. If you studied Houston, you'd be really frustrated with them.
Yeah.
Because it's not like last year.
Not at all. It's a different team.
Different team.
I mean, they're in a bad spot right now. Anyways.
And their offensive coordinator is not going to be fielding any head coach
I don't believe so.
anytime
Nor is
soon.
Lou Anarumo.
No.
Yeah.
The bloom is off those roses, yes.
Anyways, he is Matt Williamson. I am Dale Lolley. You're listening to The Drive here on the Steelers Audio Network, along with Matt's dad. How you doing?
Yeah.
And we're going to get to a break. Of course, you can hear The Drive every Monday through Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. right here on these very airwaves. We're going to continue into the off season here. We'll probably take you all the way through free agency with 5 days a week. So that's a little good news.
Book some Senior Bowl flights today.
We're ready to
too.
go.
Yeah.
We'll be right there in the stadium watching practices and giving you the rundown from
I'm
Senior
psyched
Bowl
to really
practices.
dig into the draft, but that's like
down
after
the road.
the Steelers get eliminated.
That's down the
and
road.
Super Bowl's done and all that stuff too. But
Yeah.
it is a fun next stage of the development.
It's always fun learning about players. You're like, ooh, that guy looks. We'll talk about this when we get back. But
All right.
We're gonna take a break right now. Of course, you can also download the Steelers mobile app. You can also watch our show on YouTube. I'm Dale Lolley. He's Matt Williamson. We'll be back to finish up the show right after this. Welcome back. I am Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson, and this is The Drive on the Steelers Audio Network. And one of the things we were just talking about there was the draft process.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times, like, I'm not a scout. I've never been a scout, but I've covered the game for a long time.
Sure.
And covered a lot of Steeler practices and Steeler drafts and talked to people within the organization. And so you get to an understanding of what the team values in the draft process by doing that, what they're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
And as a former scout yourself, you have a better understanding of those. Well, look at him flip his hips and that kind of stuff. I don't get into it like that.
Yeah.
But
you can almost just even looking through a Steeler perspective, like that guy's not for that.
That guy's not going to be. Yeah,
right. I mean, even like step 2 of draft process, there's some guys we could probably start to eliminate already once we start to learn about them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, just a hunch. I'm assuming Austin and Roman Wilson are going to be Steelers next year. Therefore, I'm out on 5'9" receivers.
Right. I don't need another. And I
mean,
don't necessarily, like, one of the things I was thinking, you made me think of this, is I was looking at the top receivers over the weekend as I'm watching football games, and I'm like, oh, this guy just plays the slot. Mm-hmm. That guy just plays the slot. He's been slot on. You've got slot guys.
Yep. Might love him, but we got that.
Yeah,
right. Yeah.
So you're looking more for an outside physical presence kind of guy, and that's So I see a lot of mock drafts that come out this time of year, and they just put the players in an order based on this
Steelers
guy's
need a receiver. Obviously, just give him this 5'10" fast guy. Yeah, right.
So for example, the Missouri receiver, what's it, Burton?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, he's a good player, but he's 5'10".
Mm-hmm.
Does he necessarily fit what they want to do in this offense?
Again, I don't know these prospects super well, but I think he kind of has like the Jamar Chase build to him at least.
He's a bigger guy.
So
maybe he was but
I see what you're saying.
The other example is the Ohio State receiver, whose name I can't pronounce.
Book Bay.
He's been a slot receiver his entire college career.
Right.
Even though he's 6'1", 205.
Mm-hmm.
Like, can you play him outside? Maybe. But
I mean, that was the conversation with Justin Jefferson.
Right.
If he proves he could be an outside guy,
he's
going to
Senior
Bowl and
gonna have to show that,
blah, 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 then if he can check that box, then yeah, I'm interested. But if he's slot only or just a little fast guy, I got enough of them.
Yeah, those are things that you look for at the Senior Bowl, to your point.
Sure.
That we're looking at. Those are things you look at, if you're watching the East-West Shrine practices or those bowl games.
Even the game tonight, I'm going to these late games, when I actually watch the whole thing, I always pull up who are the prospects. I at least want to be familiar with them. You know? Like a real good example is like along the lines of the Steel wide receiver position is if Najee's not back, they're not in the market for a 190-pound running back.
No.
know, I mean, it's
they have a type.
It's going to be 220 plus.
Yeah, they like bigger backs.
Yep. So all these guys on the list, I'm going to pay attention to them, but not as much as the ones that are 220 or bigger.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, there's in the trends that we often joke about this, that you're looking at stuff and that guy's a Steeler or a Raven, like because he's big enough to ride the ride.
Yeah.
And has a certain play demeanor.
Yep.
That guy looks like a Bengal. You learn things about players through that prism.
We were watching, we mentioned before that Falcons Commanders game, and I'm sitting there watching Saints drill. Like, seriously, use that guy. You know, there's a lot of dudes. Of course, you don't get every pick. A Brian Thomas like receiver would have been really nice, or a tough dude slot that can also go outside. Yeah, that'd be really nice. DeJean, a lot of guys we liked on draft day that ended up being exactly what we wanted, but you only get so many picks.
I always get that when I watch Brian Branch. I'm like, oh.
Yeah. I don't remember your take on him other than you loved him, but I do remember, and people kind of didn't like the sound of it because he's Joey Porter's kid, but when day 2 opened and I was asked, who would you take right now with first overall pick? I'm like, Branch. I'm pretty happy with Porter, but that would have been my pick of the day. I said it on the air, and both would be great.
Yeah, you'd be in a different place right now, but you'd have. They're both really good players.
We liked them in the first round.
Yeah,
I mean, we mocked them a lot in the first round.
Yeah.
So, it was like Porter would be my next pick, but I would take Branch.
Yeah,
but they're both right.
And there are other. I loved Herbig. He didn't necessarily like Herbig as much, but I could see why he wouldn't like her. I mean, he does have short arms.
Yeah.
He also has a very active pass rusher.
And that position's a good example, too, is I think it's become really apparent that a trait the Steelers absolutely covet is get off speed.
Get off speed.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's as good as anyone. The first 2 steps in the ground is going to be really quick. They're going to be looking at 10-yard splits. They're going to be watching tape of his get off. If they probably won't this year, but next edge guy they take in the top 4 rounds, I'll bet everything I have he's got a good get off.
The other thing is motor. Like I don't think they're real interested in guys who kind of half-ass it out there.
Yeah, I wonder at the D-line position in particular. Going back 2 D-line coaches and many decades.
You better run to the ball.
They're not going to be loafers.
Yeah, you better run to the ball.
97's would be cool with a loafer first-round pick. No way.
Yeah, right.
So, or they're going to whip it out of you.
Yeah. So there's some of that. Anyways, that's going to do it for today's show. So for my partner, Matt Williamson, for Justin Miller here on site, running
Happy New
the
Year,
Justin
everyone.
Miller hotline. And you can call Justin also on KISS. And, there you go. Get some stuff on there. Tyler Vittmeyer here, making sure our video gets out onto YouTube. And you'll be able to see that here later tonight. I hope Tyler's not working too late tonight to get that up. I am Dale Lolley.
Be safe tonight, everyone.
Yeah, be safe. We'll talk to you next year. No show tomorrow.
Yep.
We're going to take the day off. The Steelers won't. I'll be down there covering practice, so there's that. But we thank you for listening to this edition of The Drive on the Steelers Audio Network.
Steelers football happens here. The Pittsburgh Steelers Audio Network.